scenario, I might have to turn over the meeting to somebody else. Just a heads up.
You're not the only one. I think IV is just cursed with this internet.
Yeah, you're having troubles too.
I dropped off the CSD board meeting on.
Is that right? Yeah. Yeah, I just, with everything being remote, there's just don't have the bandwidth out here probably. I don't know. Hello. Okay, I think I'm going to go ahead and get started just because we always seem to run short on time. So just want to welcome everybody. It's nice to see you all here. You'll notice that in the agenda, there's a recurring Zoom link. And so if you haven't already, if you put that in your calendar reminder, then it's easy to find each week. We'll start with the land acknowledgement. We'd like to acknowledge that this meeting is being held on the traditional lands of the Chumash people and pay our respects to elders both past and present. We honor the traditional territory as well as the story and contributions of the Chumash people to the land upon which we gather and create. So I guess we'll go around the room with some introductions and quick announcements. I'm just going to go around and ask you to speak as you appear on my screen, which means Tori and Ariel, you're up.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Tori Saunders. I'm one of the community outreach officers with UCSB's Police Department. Happy to be here today.
And my name is Ariel Bournet, UCSB Police Department, also one of the community outreach officers. Hi.
Thank you. Spencer.
Hi, everyone. Spencer Brandt, president of the Isla Vista CSD. Nice to see you all.
Derek.
Hi, everyone. I'm Derek Marzano, civilian employee with the community outreach team of the University Police Department.
And Elijah.
Hi, everyone. Elijah Ettinger here, community engagement for Cookies Cannabis.
Naomi.
Hi, Naomi Kovacs with County Supervisor Joan Hartman's office.
Deanna.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Diana Puente, Director of Community Affairs, Student Development, and Leadership for Associated Students.
And Jay, you're up.
Jay Freeman. I'm on the board of the Isla Vista Community Services District and the Galita Valley Library Advisory Commission. I'm representing neither of them today. I'm just here in my personal capacity.
Thank you. Melissa.
Hi, everyone. Excuse me. I'm Melissa. I'm the general manager of the Ivy Food Co-op, and I sometimes co-facilitate Ivcn and do lots of work with food security and basic needs at UCSB. Hi.
Lisa.
Hi, I'm Lisa Osborne, Public Affairs and News Director at KCSB-FM, Associated Students.
And Lori.
Hi, I'm Lori Goodman. I'm the Executive Director of the Isla Vista Youth Projects.
Welcome, George.
Hello, George Thurlow, UCSB, out of the Chancellor's office.
George, you've mastered your mute button now. I'm so proud. Jonathan.
Hi, everybody. Jonathan from Isla Vista Community Services District.
Yasmin.
Hi, everyone. Yasmin Salari, Associated Students External Vice President for Local Affairs.
Justin.
Justin Schroeder with the Sheriff's Department, the Isla Vista Community Resource Deputy.
And Ash.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ash Valenti, a member of Eco Vista and Food Not Bombs. Good to see you all.
Bianca.
Hi, everyone. Bianca Orozco with Standing Together to End Sexual Assault.
Kim.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Kim Ekwanoa. I'm with the Dean of Students Office at UCSB.
Omari?
Hello, everyone. Omari Pryor, UCSB's Alcohol and Drug Program.
And then I think Jeremy just joined us.
Jeremy Rourke, psychologist, board member with Food Co-op and Food Not Bombs volunteer.
Great, thank you, everybody. I guess we'll move right into the third district report.
I don't have, I missed the COVID Board of Soups meeting because I had a conflict on my calendar. So I have not actually been filled in on updates for that, but obviously people can go to the county's website and see what's most current on the COVID scene. I'm excited that we're working on outreach efforts to Isla Vista for the safety of the Isla Vistan residents. So I know we'll be talking more about that. And I think I'll just let the meeting happen and chime in where appropriate.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Naomi at this point? I guess I should add that, you know, most of these reports really will feed into the main subject because COVID-19 seems to be what's top of everyone's minds right now. Moving into Associated Students, Yasmin?
My biggest update is that we, as an association, the execs had ordered thermometers to be passed around IV, and we're working on establishing distribution points for them in the upcoming days so people could have access to those.
Co-op is a yes, Yasmin. I forgot to email you back. The managers are very in favor of being a distro site.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sign us up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, those were ordered months ago and they just finally arrived. So that's pretty exciting stuff. Let's see. Anything else, Yasmin?
That's pretty much it for my update.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Maybe we should go to law enforcement first and then finish up with COVID-19. And that way, if people need to drop off, they can. So who wants to go with law enforcement?
Hey, Ronnie. We were just talking it over today. We don't have any major updates. And so I know COVID has been on a lot of people's minds. If we want to just talk about COVID today, that's fine. If anyone has any specific questions for the UCSB Police Department, we do have 3 people on this call to answer questions. But unless Justin has something, we don't have anything major that needs to be discussed today.
Okay, thank you. Justin?
My response would be exactly the same as Ariel's. Open for questions, but no major updates.
Okay, well, we are moving right along here. Jay?
Yeah, so just on the standpoint of the usual kind of Ivcn of like newsworthy police events and wondering if there's anything else that we should know about them, there was the, this might have been over a week ago, but I think it was under a week ago. I think it was just after the last meeting. There was the person who had to be forcefully removed from an apartment, and there was like this 51-year-old Santa Barbara resident who was like, it was in the press, and so I was just wondering, is that something that people were evacuated from the surrounding buildings or anything else that anyone should know about there?
Yeah, I can answer that briefly. It was like you said, a 51-year-old Santa Barbara resident who basically broke into a vacant apartment unit. He had been living there actually for a couple of weeks, and the apartment managers went to check on the building after they received some complaints. That's when they found the subject inside. He verbally threatened them, threatened to kill them, threatened to kill anybody who came into the unit. So we were obviously called for that. Over about the course of 2 hours, various people tried to reason with the person. Some family members were brought in to speak with him. Everybody was just trying to get him to come outside, but he was refusing. Again, really threatening anybody and everybody, including his family, his neighbors, law enforcement, everybody. So for safety, just the very immediate neighbors were removed and just asked to leave the area. There were about 3 people that left. So negotiations continued for about 2 hours. We made very little progress. The family made very little progress. So at that time, we went in to arrest the subject. 2 small pepper ball, they're called, with a little bit of OC powder inside them were put into the bathroom to get the subject to come out. At that point, he came out and was arrested without incident. That's about that one.
Thank you. That's I'm very glad I asked, because there was some definitely some context there that had not been provided in any of the news articles that I had read, including the threatening and yeah. So thank you so much.
No problem.
Anyone else have any questions for law enforcement at this time? Okay. If
Was
not,
anyone able to offer him housing assistance yet?
I'm not aware of anybody. Again, he was booked into the jail on various charges, including the burglary and the threatening. I don't know if anybody reached out to him. There's county services and mental health services inside the jail that he would have been offered, but I'm not aware of the status of that. And our crisis intervention team also was involved, but again, I don't have intimate knowledge of where that led.
all right. Jerry, were you raising your hand, or are you just doing something with your screen? Okay.
I was wondering if we do move along through this meeting as fast as we are going, if we could leave some time maybe to add to the agenda item, an update with the houseless community here in IV.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, on to COVID-19 messaging efforts. Does anyone want to talk about what they're doing? Jonathan, I know you're kind of heading something up.
Yeah, I'm happy to start off, and I know others have other things to share as well. But our board on Tuesday approved a messaging campaign to residents in Isla Vista to the tune of almost $10,000 to get the message out in a few different ways, mainly ads on Facebook, but also direct mail and mass text and email blasts with UCSB support, Viviana, who's not here. But what we could really use support on is volunteers. We're going to need people to send out these mass texts. We're going to need people to do some of the literature drop, no contact. So I can put that volunteer link in the chat. And we've developed the messages in partnership with a lot of the people who are actually on this call right now, a couple of weeks ago now. But they're focused on letting people know where the free masks are, and we can update that to include the thermometers once you have a final list. And that ad's been running already, going really well. Lots of people have messaged like, thanks for letting us know where we can get masks. So that was our first priority. We said, let's just let people know they're free and where to get them, and thank the people who do wear them. We're gonna have an ad on how to respond when you have COVID or your housemates do, like kind of what to do, best practices. An ad on how to keep your housemates safe and high risk behaviors, and just educating people on what those are. And then finally, I'm forgetting the last ad actually, but it's in that same theme. There's 4 priority kind of messages we developed. We said there's a lot of things we should tell people, but we developed these 4. And we're going to start rolling them out in different ways with support from different groups. We're not trying to duplicate too many things, but just trying to give the message from different ways. So I'll put our volunteer link for anyone who's willing to help us contact Isla Vista residents to be safe.
Jonathan, I've heard there have been a couple of graduate student deaths recently. Reasons given were blood clots, and there was some speculation that might be actually related to coronavirus, as blood clots are a symptom. Do you know anything about that?
No, I wouldn't know anything about that.
Okay.
I just want to follow up to let you know that in Joan's recent newsletter, we included the Isla Vista resources and all of that. So that went out to lots of people.
Great. Does anyone have any knowledge about the 2 graduate students? I hadn't even heard about that. No?
Rodney,
Yeah.
I just know of one, and it was described as a sudden death, a 4th-year graduate student. Other than that, I think everything else is probably confidential under HIPAA.
All right.
But I have heard nothing that it was somehow COVID related, and I would assume that the county is monitoring that in terms of the metrics that they put up every day.
Thank you, George. Does anyone else have anything they want to talk about? Lisa.
I just wanted to share that KCSB, we spoke with Ethan Bertrand for last night's Inside Isla Vista, and I put a link to the show there. He probably spent about the first 20 minutes talking about different education efforts in Isla Vista. So there's a link in the chat if you're interested.
Nice, thank you. Joanna, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, hi. Sorry I was late to the call. Health and wellness and student health are working together on some messaging campaigns as well. So we're working to, there's new meetings that are starting up again to go through, but it'll be a pretty comprehensive push out from our 2 departments. And I'd like to, I'm sorry I'm late to the call, but I'd like to see more. Jonathan, is there a way for me to see more of what you've got to put out?
We have one ad made, and I can send you the link to that.
Okay, and we also have a student working for the remainder of summer session B just on COVID messaging design and pushing it out and whatnot. So
Yeah.
we'd love to coordinate and
I'd love some help because I think, you know, what we're more focused on is we'll pay a lot of money to get the message sent out, like ads and direct mail to people's homes. So any support, you know, we can get on those messages, I'm happy to just repackage them and send them out Facebook page under an ad or something.
So can I have my student contact you directly?
Yeah, you have my email. I'll put it in the chat.
Thank you.
George, did you have your hand up?
Yes, Jonathan, the entire program, the entire messaging program was in a document at the board meeting. That's available to the public, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna link that too. But that's just, you know, ideas. No, there's nothing.
There's no detail. Yeah, but I think it's a real good outline of all the different things and also the cost of what it's going to be.
Yeah, I'll just put that in the chat too. And the Facebook link should go to the current ad we have up.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, is there Melissa?
I have a question / comment. Are the stuff that CSD is doing and the stuff for health and wellness, is that geared towards like current residents and then also coming towards what move-in would potentially look like? Like, is it really aiming to sort of arc past the summer? I think I feel still a little unclear on what to expect with UCSD return. I know City College announced all online today, but is there an idea of what might be expected in terms of how the messaging keeps up when students are coming back, or like refresh messaging? We just don't know exactly what's happening. So any insight is great about that.
You know, personally, I don't like to overplan, so I think we're gonna do what we need to do in August and then figure it out after that.
That makes sense.
I can mention a few things that UCSB is doing as far as the education, but it's really right now we're looking at the prior to arrival education pieces that I can report on. So we're working with Everfi, which is a company that we do all of our mandatory education, online education through for alcohol and drug education, interpersonal violence, diversity, equity, mental health, things of that nature. They've just put out a module that we're going to also be pushing out to all students at UCSB, educating specifically around COVID. So it's going to have all kinds of content that will help mainly resource people into different offices around campus and resources that folks can reach out to learn about whether it's academic support, whether it's medical and health, whether it's basic needs and food security, things of that nature. But then really looking at what does it mean to be now living in this community of people. So there's kind of two different things that are going to be happening around that message, which is one, there's going to be a pledge, which is student developed and student driven, pushed out to their peers. And that's coming from student interns in the Dean of Students office. And they're putting together this kind of campus pledge idea. And then there's going to be more of a campus compact, which is going to be attached onto the end of the Everfi module. And that's going to be around kind of specific expectations and what does it mean now to keep your community safe and what are we as a community expecting of you. And now you're going to be, this is now an agreement moment for you. And so that is all very much still in development, but those are kind of the frameworks to hopefully be pushing out messaging.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna, if people have an interest, I'd like to show the presentation on the Beloved Communities outreach campaign. And I attached it to everybody, to the invite to the agenda, but I'll go ahead and I'll share my screen and run through it real fast. And then if you want to look at it in more depth, you can you can just pick it up off of your agenda invitation. So host, can you, Jonathan, can you allow me to
oh yeah,
share?
Yeah, 1 second. Okay, you're good.
I'm good. All right, so this is a presentation that was put together for Associated Student Staff meeting. And it basically kind of outlines the Beloved Community efforts, which are constantly evolving. But that's more of a table of contents there. This gives you a little background history of Beloved Community and its origins. And then how it's evolved into a year-round effort to identify Isla Vista as a community that embodies beloved community principles of Martin Luther King Jr. And moving down, the challenge we're all aware of is the rapidly rising cases in California, and particularly among young people. And these stats here on the slide are way back on the 13th, and they've risen substantially since then. And so the action plan was to pretty much saturate the community with messaging. And so we have 4 of these large signs out, with 5 foot by 7 foot signs. One at El Colegio and Stork, one at El Colegio and Los Carneros, one at El Colegio Embarcadero del Norte, and one at El Colegio and Camino Pescadero. We also have Facebook frames online that you can download from either our website or our Facebook page. And that's what they look like. We've put out essential worker appreciation signs at some locations. And we actually have about 10 more signs that'll be going out with various messaging on them. Just waiting on getting some supplies. And then KCSB put together these really wonderful public service announcements for us. Thank you, Lisa. And I'll play one for you, but in the PowerPoint that you were sent, there's links to the site. So you can check it out yourself or share them.
Stay strong, Vista. Stay home.
坚强 ID 坚持在家 Sigamos fuertes, La Vista. Quédense en casa.
We all love Isla Vista, and it's going to take every one of us to protect our community right now.
The essential workers in our community are on the front line of the COVID-19 pandemic, and they can't stay home. Those of us who can must.
Love from a distance.
But there's still a lot we can do to love and care for our community from a distance. Join an online community support group to give and get help.
Donate resources.
If you're healthy, volunteer, distribute food, or deliver groceries to the elderly.
We are so fortunate to live in such a supportive community. We will not only get through this together, but we will grow closer to the process, difficult as it may be. Thank you for doing your part.
6 feet apart, but together in heart.
6 pies separados, pero juntos en corazón.
身距6尺，心在一起。6 feet apart, but together in heart.
A message from the beloved community of Isla Vista.
So yeah, there's several of those. There's 3 of them on their blog site, but they have several others as well. And let's see. Then we have these stickers. You may have noticed if you've been ordering food in. They're currently being distributed with purchases on bags or pizza boxes from Buddha Bowls, Pizza My Heart. The IV Food Co-op has the stickers they're giving out with the grocery bags, and as does the Isla Vista Market. We are in the process of adding several other locations to have those distributed. And you notice that these, as well as the PSAs, they were done in English, Spanish, and Mandarin, so we can reach all the community. Public service videos. I won't play this for you, but you can follow the link to it. Similar messaging about social distancing and wearing masks. And this is something you could play at the beginning of a meeting. Beginning of a Zoom meeting, you could share that, or put it on your websites, however you want to do it. We sent out a press release to 48 contacts at 28 different media outlets about it, and the Independent and Newshawk, I believe, both picked it up. I'm not sure about any others. And then we sent it to all the campus entities on campus. And then we have the collaborative works and partners. And so Chelsea Lyon and her creative media unit did all the artwork for all the work. Yasmin, they provided funding and helped get the word out to the student organizations. Lisa for the PSAs, and Sabina for updating our website and kind of making everything connect. And then free mass distribution map with the entities and who they were sponsored by, and the locations and the hours is also here. And then just a link to the Facebook page. But more work is going on right now. Everything is being translated into Spanish, and we're doing an outreach program to just the Spanish community, and we will include all of these resources, and that's being worked on by the Isla Vista Tenants Union outreach along with the EVPLA. And yeah, that's it. Any questions on that? Okay, anyone else have anything else they want to share?
I just want to say thank you to all the partners for this collaboration. It has been really great to see all the different folks who are stepping into this, whether it's Jay with printing out those majorly large file posters, and to everybody else who's distributing all this information. It has been really great. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Jay. I forgot to mention you.
I'm wondering if it sounds like there's several different messaging campaigns being created right now. And I'm wondering if there's a thought of merging any of things. So it's like one unified brand so that people coming in have like, they're recognizing the images. I just don't know enough about what's happening separately for CSD and the UCSB version and now the beloved community version. And if AS is also working on something. Is there anything happening like together?
I was going to start that conversation offline, but I think that there are some really unique things about each campaign that maybe need to, I'm guessing, stay separate. But that was my goal of being here today, was to figure out how I could connect to the, I'm actually not doing the work, but connect my people to have my people to talk to your people, so on and so forth. Because yeah, it's like, a lot of us are doing the same things.
Yeah, I think being able to coordinate where the messaging is going and how it's being messaged is great, while still maintaining the kind of the integrity of the different campaigns, as you said, the kind of different voices, but definitely wanting to coordinate that. And I think Rodney mentioned, I mean, there's definitely more to come on our end as well, trying to get even higher visibility throughout IV. So I do think that getting all of our heads together offline to just see how we can kind of add another layer of support and collaboration to that would be awesome, for sure. One of the things that might be worthwhile thinking about in this group is whether or not, now that we've talked about the different campaigns, whether or not you all think that there's any kind of gaps in that. You know, is there a blind spot that we're not really paying attention to right now that would be worth considering for ongoing messaging?
Keeping social distance inside of businesses, or physical distance, I should say, it's a issue that we're experiencing in the co-op right now, even with limited population. We're having some workers a little freaked out. We're having people wear their masks wrong, so that we're blessed because we're not dealing with what's happening in other stores, which is like harassment. We don't have that happening here, but we are doing mask policing, which is shitty to have to be doing that, but that's like what grocers really are having to do now. So awareness about the proper way to wear a mask is really important. And then also not crowding around people. I don't know if that's part of these campaigns. I mean, we're putting up signage obviously in the store about that, but I think people forget sometimes about keeping that physical distance. And when you're in a small store like ours, it's pretty stressful for the workers. And that I think would be mapped at any business around IAB because we have very small businesses. I don't know if that's like a missing thing or more just ongoing sharing about the 6 feet, and that it is very important to us, and especially indoors, it's very important. Especially with more COVID cases in IV, and now we're extra sensitive at the co-op because we did have a positive case. And so we're extremely aware, and we have to do contact tracing when that happens. It's so stressful, you guys. So any support with that.
That makes me think maybe, could just be me, but I think a lot of people relate to the idea of sympathy with workers. So maybe actually telling that story about somehow publicly about how it workers. And that's why it's important to know to wear your mask around your nose and not crowd around people and whatever else.
Thank you for that. That's yeah, thank you for reflecting that. And that might be actually a way that we put it out on our socials from the voice of one of the workers if they feel comfortable. And that's the signage that I made today was about like kind of that direction. So thank you for saying that.
So I think there's also I'm wondering how we could fill a gap of services to houseless community in terms of health services. I wonder what kind of stance the beloved community takes toward houselessness in general too. And I'm aware, Jonathan, you mentioned on one of our Wednesday chats a few weeks ago that Doctors Without Walls had come out a few times to IV, but is no longer planning to come out to IV to work with the houseless community here. So I wonder if that's kind of a gap that we could maybe address. But there's, like I said earlier, I had kind of another agenda item if we could add it, because I think there are issues, not just health issues, not just coronavirus issues that are affecting the houseless community that I'd like to give some more time to if we could today. So I don't know if we have an update on Doctors Without Walls, exactly if we have any information about why they may have left, or like if anyone is planning on including in any of this messaging that we're creating anything about how the houseless and what kind of resources they have.
I would just speak in terms of just to that question, the last question, Jeremy. I'm not sure what kind of messaging the Houseless Coalition has been doing, but I think that it would make sense that perhaps the conversation begin there and think about very specific to the community how we can support whatever the messaging efforts are. That would just be my initial thought about the best way to center that conversation.
That's the Friday group?
I think that they're meeting on Wednesdays, but I'm not actually sure when or how ongoing those meetings are. But that would be Kate Maynard was the one that started those regular meetings.
Right, I'm part of those. Jay Freeman is part of those. Rodney, you're part of those. You're thinking we should look to that group for what?
Well, I think that if your thought is about how to get messaging for the houseless community about services and health education and all that, I was just thinking that probably that conversation, if the conversation was had within the Houseless Coalition so that it informs the work and that the conversation about what kind of messaging should be happening. I think similar to what we're saying, that there's different pockets of this messaging for different communities. And so the Houseless community and the Houseless Coalition, I think, should be speaking to what would be the best way to approach that messaging, since that's where the expertise and the experience lies.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of resources we have to get messaging out within that group. I'm not sure.
I'm not thinking that it's about the resources to get it out. I think it's about what is the messaging that you'd want to see going out, and that then maybe there's a broader conversation with this group. For example, if the CSD has funds to get the COVID messaging out in various forms, maybe that could be incorporated as part of that campaign. Maybe part of that goes into the Beloved Community campaign, so that we can help to identify resources. But I think I'm just suggesting that the nexus of that conversation, the origination of it and where it's housed, is within the community that's being impacted.
Okay, right. Okay. I can't remember. I'm not great with names. I got the first names, but not the last names now. There's Emily with United Way. Maybe many of you probably know who I'm talking about. She mentioned a couple of weeks ago at the Wednesday meeting that she's working on getting a houselessness 101 kind of online educational program out. They've normally done this in person, like held workshops and classes, but she's getting it ready to go online. And so I'm really excited about that. I think that could be a really good way to kind of educate the community about the houselessness too. Sorry, nobody's jumping in. I have some more stuff on houselessness in general, but I don't want to co-opt the conversation on coronavirus and the messaging what we were just talking about. Are people ready to move on to the next topic?
I have one more thing. Oh, sorry, Melissa, go ahead.
No, you got it, Joe.
Okay. Just that I and I don't know how internal or external this conversation is, but I'm just going to throw it out there that I know that student health is trying really hard to get messaging out saying, hey, if we contact you about having had contact with somebody or something COVID related, that we're here to help you. we're not here to punish you, or that it's not a punitive thing. So my understanding of that is very rudimentary. I just kind of heard about it the other day, but we just put out a MyEmma email to all UCSB students that formulated that. I might find that and send it to this group, because it's a nice, like, real clear spelling out of, hey, if student health contacts you, just so you know, here's what our goals are, that kind of thing. So I'll find that real fast.
I just had a random one about masks also. It sounds dumb, but just going by the volume of masks that we're going through at the store, and we're grateful to be a mask distro, but we've given out like thousands of masks. I do not believe that people are washing their masks and reusing them. I think they're using them and like throwing them in the corner of their room or something. We've seen a slight slowdown in the use of surgical masks, but we have spent, so far the co-op has doubled our store operating budget for supplies for COVID. So it's like a box of 50 surgical masks a day almost still, and all the reusable masks. And so I don't know if somewhere in the messaging we can talk about having enough reusable masks that you're washing them and reusing them. Because it's free, but it's not really free. And so we're offering free masks, but we're all paying for the free things that we're offering. And at some point, it's tricky. Like our operating budget for next year is going to be a hard one to have hazard pay continue, which it has to. But then to keep spending on the amount of money that we're required to spend for sanitizer, surgical masks. So I don't know if that's useful messaging, like wash your mask.
Yeah.
You can even wear a surgical mask under your other mask if those are less expensive. I don't know. It's very interesting to watch the flow.
I think it's a good point that maybe even part of some of the campaign, even though it seems to some people maybe obvious, it probably doesn't to others, is like, how do you wash and sanitize your masks? Like, how do you do that? And if you're using the inserts, do you take them out? Do you leave them in? How often do you change the insert if you're using an insert? Do you use dish liquid? Do you use hand soap? So maybe just like simple messaging like this. And I think in IV, people are going to grasp also this is like environmentally friendly to reuse your masks. And so I think, Melissa, you're right. That's actually a good point.
What you just said was clutch, like the up level of that type of education. Common sense is not common. I just want to say that for the record. And the things that we've learned that at the co-op a lot. How you just broke that down and actually adding in the environmental piece, I think is so smart. And maybe Environmental Affairs Board could be an asset, maybe when school comes back also, because we are struggling as an environmentally sustainable, like forward-focused business. Like that's out the window. Like surgical gloves, plastic in the bulk section has been like kind of traumatizing for us, but finding ways to still be environmentally aware during this time actually is a really cool consideration for how the Isla Vista community might be able to pick up on this. So I think that was brilliant.
That's great. So the things that I picked up then, I think this is feedback then for the 3 entities that are doing this kind of social messaging for us to consider then. I have physical distancing, just kind of the reinforcement of what that looks like, especially indoors, in spaces, proper mask wearing and mask care, telling stories from the workers' perspective, of addressing the house's community in terms of various different messaging around health. Those are the items that I have that I think are that I pulled from this conversation, and perhaps when we get back together, we can, of course, discuss it within the Beloved Community Group, and then maybe Joe and Jonathan can all kind of have that conversation together as well. Is Rodney back on? I know Rodney got bumped for a second, but I think he made it back.
I am back.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, I got bumped for a while. My internet, tell you. Okay, I am back, but I am also missed a lot of what was happening.
I think in the time that you were gone, Rodney, we kind of just talked about were there any gaps in terms of the messaging that exists so far that people can kind of easily identify that we want to think about in our various groups that are doing social messaging, social distancing messaging. So I can give you those notes.
That'd be great. And then I have one quick question before we move on to the house list discussion, or if that already happened, I'm not sure. But this is a question, I guess, mostly for Wendy. I can contact you, but I had a report about a property owner sexually harassing tenants. And I just didn't know if that's something I should refer them to you or if there's a better organization for that. Wendy, you there? You're muted. I don't know if you're talking. Okay, well, does anyone else have a direction to point me? Otherwise, I can find it. I just thought since I had everybody here, I would ask the question.
Was the sexual harassment reported to any other entity? Are they willing to report it?
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out who to direct them to report it to.
Rodney, why don't we talk offline about that?
Okay, that sounds good.
Great.
So when did we want to talk more about the house list?
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, so there's a couple of other things going on and coming up, other than the United Way video, which I would, once it's ready, I would recommend it for everyone in the community, honestly. Another thing, there's a county cleanup happening mid-August where they're currently working on contracting a company to come in and kind of clean up the parks. So we're just Food Not Bombs is trying to work on advocating for greater communication between county organizers and the houseless community. There's another issue that came to our attention recently. People within the houseless community have complained that they have a lot less access to electricity for charging their phones now than they used to. I guess electricity on the outside of Embarcadero Hall was recently turned off, and I believe they used to charge devices and power equipment outside the Pardall Center previously, and that's also no longer a possibility. As well as like the coffee shop Kajay and other places around the loop, they're no longer able to charge. So there's apparently one more place available, and that's the community center, but with just one place local to the park, that's creating a bottleneck there. People need their phones to make calls, obviously, to keep appointments, basically to access tools and services that they need to sustain themselves and hopefully, get themselves out of their current circumstances. And so like there's a bottleneck around that one point, and that's just creating more gathering as well as tension, people wanting to be around. This was brought to the attention of the group on Wednesday also, and Emily was on that call. She recalled the passing out of solar chargers, which is good, but those also charge very slowly and also get stolen. And so I'm wondering, I guess the houseless person I was talking with about this was also wondering if some of those, I mean, obviously we don't have control over businesses, but would electricity be able to be turned back on at Embarcadero Hall? And is there any chance of that happening also at Pardall Center? That was one issue that's come up recently. Yeah, and the Doctors Without Walls thing, I was still not clear what happened with that. I don't know. I think that was Jonathan that was organizing that before. And that's all I have, I think. So I don't know if anybody has any thoughts on the electricity.
Hey, Jeremy.
Yeah.
Hey, just in the spirit of honesty, just so we're all on the same page, it would be unfair of me to let you speak about that without giving you some insight. It is not currently legal for someone without a university affiliation to go onto Embarcadero Hall and use the electricity without permission. So if it's a student, staff, or faculty, that's totally above board. But for anyone, not just houseless, anyone else with no direct affiliation or purpose for being on the property, it's currently illegal to use the electricity. So I don't want you to necessarily advertise that and then encourage people to do something that may end up in a law enforcement call. That being said, if you want to contact the university official to discuss that, that's way out of our control, or that's above our pay grade. But it is it is not something I would encourage you to encourage them to do.
Well, this is more of a human services issue and than a legal issue, I think. Like, I don't know with all of the things that illegal things that people can do, if somebody's going to bother trying to arrest somebody for charging a phone. And if the police needed to enforce that, that's up to the police. But I'm asking the question more about whether the university's stance on, can the electricity be turned back on? It would not probably be illegal to turn the electricity back on.
Yeah. No, like I said, the only reason I brought it up is because we do actually get a lot of calls for service when people have to use the buildings and there's a large gathering. Sometimes the bike racks will start to get tampered with. And so that's actually a very regular call for us regarding the electrical outlets. And I'm not giving my personal opinion on whether I think that's right, or they're calls for service. You know what I mean? So people are calling us to come and address it. I just wanted to put it out there. But like I said, I totally agree on everything you said about electricity being essential to basic human functions. Like I said, I just felt like it would be unfair for me to not let you know.
No, I understand. I know what powers we're working against.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate your concern. Yeah.
So at festivals, because we used to have them and they were fun, there were things like solar charging stations. They're not one-off battery phone chargers. I put a link in here. I don't know how much they cost, but it feels like there's potential for funding through different avenues. Like the co-op would kick in like $100, $200 towards something, because we had to close our outlets. It sucked, but we didn't really have a choice because people were not being self-responsible on the patio. And so I wonder about looking for actual solutions that are long-term solutions for stuff like this that don't require there's the human part of it, but if we're really talking about humans being honored and valued, then we should be investing in some assets that can lead to long-term support, because this is not going to go away tomorrow. So I would be very interested in, I'm not a part of the Houseless Coalition work. I don't have tons of time to add more things, but what I do like doing is finding ways to bridge solutions from lots of different places. So something, I put a link in here, I'm sure you guys have talked about it, but a charging pole that has docks on it, so you can charge 8 or 10 phones at once. Yeah, it costs money, but that's us saying that there's value to this part of our community and that this group deserves some attention and some resources. And these are the types of resources that are not one-off, we're gonna give you a bag lunch, which is an amazing resource, but this is a long-term investment in a way to support that won't lead to ongoing conversations and band-aid fixes. So that's just, my first thought is I've seen these be very effective at events. Seems like possible. Not to oversimplify, but
I can shed some light on an effort that was started in my last year with IVRPD. I worked with the IVCRC, and they funded half of a solar charging station to go into the park. right across the street from the Magic Lantern Theater. And the ground has already been prepped. The board approved their half of the funding. They already received last year the funding from IVCRC. So it's just a matter of, I say just a matter, but it's a matter of getting, you know, Ivy Parks to go ahead and have that installed. But so there is something in the works already.
Do you know what the cost was, like the total price of the install?
I want to say the one that they went with was pretty elaborate, and I think it was close to $10,000.
That makes sense though, and that feels totally doable. Like if 5,000 is already acquired, and there's such a vested interest from so many of us to support this.
Oh, it's all been approved. The board.
Oh, it's all been approved. Yeah, great.
The board approved their half, and IVCRC already gave them the other half. So they have the money.
Well, that feels solutionary.
Do you know what that program is waiting on now, Rodney?
No, I don't. I haven't really been involved with the Park District operation since I left.
Okay.
And I can follow up on that. I'll check.
That's cool. And I think there should be more than one so that there's not competition at one. Even if it has room for enough phones, I think it would be good if there was at least 3 in IV. You know, that might take a while, but maybe we can get RPD to do one and somebody else to do another. Cool.
I just want
Overall,
to say that I think it's a great idea, and I would be very supportive of something like that if there's any way that the CSD can help.
Yeah, the one that the Park District has is an actual table. It has a covering over it, and it has it's handicap accessible. It has, you know, one spot with no bench, but the other sides have benches. But you know, to what Ash was talking about, possibly just getting poles that don't necessarily have all those bells and whistles would be less expensive to install in various locations.
So the houseless person that I spoke to the other day mentioned the community center was one of the only places. If there were other outlets, it sounded like there was just one, like, I guess it would be near the entrance to the community center, that's the only place. If there were other outlets on other sides of the building, or even outside of the community room, if there were outlets or an extension cord that could be used, I think that could alleviate some of the charging issues in a more immediate kind of way too. Spencer?
Yeah, well, I love this idea of there's a table affixed to it as well, so that it's not just people have got the charge, but then they've also got a place to sit, and anyone in the public can utilize a space like that. I think it's a really cool model. And I know that I think on campus at UCSB, at least that's the first place where I saw it, where they did that, and they had a solar panel umbrella on the top of it too. So it's a really cool idea.
Yeah, I think the one on UCSB is right on the other side of the Pardall Tunnel. And I think that was designed by engineering students there. I think that was a homemade thing.
I think that we're in an interesting moment, and we were talking about this in the co-op yesterday, of we've experienced the crisis and the triage of this happening very quickly, and the immediate Band-Aid solutions to do things like run our business without a roadmap, deal with panic shopping now that we see the immense long-term challenge of out of stocks. And we're, as a community, we have a moment right now to actually consider that this is going to be something affecting us for a long time, and not everything needs to be like an immediate response with a Band-Aid fix, and we can actually look at like a unified strategy as a community that will help arc this into a longer term solution, so it doesn't have to be like spending money really quickly. Like what we've been doing is just to like get things figured out, but we're actually having a moment to like regather ourselves and now be much more strategic for the next probably 6 months or a year that this could really be affecting us. And so the houseless community feels like a really important component to be reflected in that way, because it's not going to go away in terms of an impact to a specific vulnerable community. And we might need to really think about like a larger group of people that can be stakeholders, maybe not participatory, but can offer even small streams of funding or a different longer term solution, and ideas that have that larger, I feel like investing in assets, like the county can look at us like a balance sheet, and instead of it all being on the profit and loss, like immediately like getting spent, we're actually taking some of our cash and applying it to an asset that can be longer over time. And that's a really valuable use of resources in that way, because it's not just like a one-off spending money that you're like deducting every single day. So it's a weird like way of business thinking about it, but that's sort of helping me better approach the insanity of running a business through this. So I don't know, just how my brain is trying to wrap the houseless community part of it as well. Rodney had to jump off when he was the facilitator. So is there anything else left that we want to talk about on the call? I also have another meeting, but is there more? I mean, the houseless conversation probably should just be something that we add as a regular agenda item, maybe. Like the agenda really is set by the community. And so if that feels like a useful ongoing part of the regular agenda, I don't know if Jeremy and Ash want to help allow that to be just a regular conversation. I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but to have that space to talk about it feels really important. That seems
Also, there's a working group, the encampment working group as well, that meets. So maybe we can, provide reports or something.
I think one of the keys to understanding the community and if we can represent them well, one of the things, so this is another last name I don't know, I apologize. Lucille, she works at the county on one of these commissions. She mentioned the phrase the other day, no more about us without us. And I think that can kind of sum up government in general. Like on a national level, we all recognize the need for change in government, and we have an opportunity to do that at a local level. And so this no more about us without us, I think, speaks to a lot of different issues. And particularly with the houseless, like I think if any groups here represented here coming here you have your own ability to kind of go out to the houseless community and just talk with somebody. There are a lot of people out there that are very willing to talk, and they would tell you a few things about what they're struggling with, and we could really address some issues. It seems there's a lot of hands off, and like, here we are. Not many of us, I would venture to say, have ever experienced houselessness, but yeah, here we are kind of trying to problem solve for them. I really like the idea of having more voices from the community involved in these conversations. Anyway, that's it for me.
I was actually even going to ask at some point if we wanted to invite in community members from our houseless community, if there's like a role to play, just even showing up to Ivcn meetings and knowing that the space is open for our whole community. It's not totally accessible, obviously, on Zoom, but maybe there's a way, if there's an opportunity. Because I think that's what Jeremy just said is so critical, and that people sometimes don't feel invited into spaces and places. And I think when the CN was happening in the community room, it was a little bit easier because it was right there. We had lunch, everybody was invited. And so maybe that's just another, opportunity, because I'm sure that there's folks in the houseless community that are incredibly brilliant, intelligent, and that actually might think of some really great solutions because it's within, themselves. So
I will bring at least one person in with me to the next meeting.
Cool. Okay. Well, it's 1:07. I have another call, so I need to jump off. Jonathan's just sitting back there hosting, so I don't know if anybody wants to stay on for longer, if they want to say goodbye and have a nice week and resume next week with more of these conversations. Please email if you have agenda needs or thoughts. And thanks, everyone. Thank you. Mask. Have a good day.
Thank
See
you.
you guys soon.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody.
See you later. Bye.